education rather than just doing all the movements, and then we're going to have an experiment with the movements as well. So today I'm actually going to be speaking about breathing and alignment, because our breathing patterns can affect our posture. Breathing can affect our mental state. Breathing can affect our nervous systems. So actually breathing is really, really important for our physical health, our mental health, and our postures. So a lot of people that are stressed and anxious will do what is called clavicular breathing, and they tend to use just this upper part of the chest. So a demonstration would be, I've got to try and do it wrong. It's very there. No air is going into the lower parts of the body. How that affects breathing is people will breathe shorter, quicker breaths, which stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. That's your fight or flight or adrenaline one. So people like that, they've got all this adrenaline and cortisol rushing around in the body and they're not using it. Over a long period of time, that is not healthy for the body. And it keeps this, the heightened state of mind all the time. It has an effect on the muscles in the body as well. So these muscles tend to be more restrictive. So that is clavicular breathing. Then we've also got lateral thoracic breathing. So lateral thoracic breathing is the tummy is kept pulled in, or the majority of the breath is taken out to the side of the rib cage and the front of the rib cage. And that is what is more commonly known as the Pilates breath. And there's pros and cons to a Pilates breath, and I've spent many years having my normal breath as a Pilates breath and found that I found it really hard to breathe into the belly, which is actually how we should be breathing. So there was a lot of restriction around this part of the body, which again is not the best thing. And there's a time and a place for Pilates breathing, and there's a time and a place for belly breathing. Now with the Pilates breath, the idea is that we keep those abdominals drawn in to keep the spine stable and to keep everything active while we're doing the Pilates moves. And as we experiment with them, you'll find that actually the body will naturally do what it needs to do. So some people put so much emphasis on the breath, and people don't want to come back to classes because they're like, I couldn't get the breathing. So we have to remember that our body is very clever. Our body understands itself far better than any doctor or anybody can even imagine. You know, we only know what not even half of what the brain can do. So the most important thing about doing Pilates or any exercise is that you don't hold the breath. You breathe and your body will tell you what to do. And I've had clients for years who always want to breathe when you should do breathe in when they should do an exhale, and they breathe, you know, it's vice versa. But you know what? They're breathing. They're not going to hurt themselves, and the body, that is what their body wants them to do. So, I've gone blank. The ribcage breathing, thoracic breathing. So what we happen, so here, you can see my fingers, so I'm going to take a breath out. Now I'm putting my fingers there. When I breathe in, watch my fingers. So you can see the rib cage opens and then it closes. And that is naturally what the rib cage will do anyway. But, and we are going to experiment with this, what we're trying not to do is also let the belly go. Because when we breathe into the belly, we release all the core muscles. So when you inhale, ideally the air wants to go down into the tummy expands. Okay? You'll notice that when you breathe in, if you really, really listen to your body, it's like, oh, I can feel my pelvic floor, I can feel lots of things down there relaxing a little bit. And then when you exhale, it pulls in and up again. So there are times in Pilates where we want to keep everything, and I want to say tense integrity. We want to have this intention around our spine and our body to keep it safe. But if you're doing Pilates correctly and you're doing a controlled movement, which is what Pilates is, then you're going to be fine. And then the last one is the belly breath. And there's pros and cons again to the belly breath. Paul will tend to just tell people to breathe normally. I try and get people to do the Pilates breath, but we each have our own philosophy behind it, and they're not wrong, they're just different. Sometimes I don't know how Paul and I have stayed married so long. We have so many different opinions on everything, but again, they're not wrong, they are just different. Right, so that is the breath. Let's get onto the mat and let's have a play with this breathing now. And we will see what your body wants you to do. I'm going to lead you through this, but see what your body wants you to do. And when you get a better understanding of these things, then you can almost, I want to say challenge teachers, because sometimes I think people just learn like parrots rather than actually understanding why and what they're doing. Now, so let's have your knees hip-width apart, and your lower back is going to be in a neutral spine. So neutral is when you have that little curve and the weight is settled in the sacrum. So the sacrum is just above the coccyx there and the back of the pelvis. It's that hard little triangle there. Okay, so that's where the weight is. You have that little curve. Your knees are in line with the front hips, and then your feet are in line with your knees. So I'm going to put my hands on my hips just so that you can see what is going on. And I like to have hands there because it gives me feedback as well. So at the moment, I have that little space under the back. Now, what I want you to do is take a breath in. And as you breathe out, the tummy will draw in, and then you're going to send your lower back to the floor, and you're going to pull your hip bones towards your rib cage. So we're going to breathe in. As you exhale, tummy goes down towards the mat, hip bones towards rib cage. This is called a pelvic tilt. So breathing in. So what are you feeling going on around the rib cage? Can you feel how the ribs are pulling down towards the hips? And then breathe in and just let it relax. So exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Hold it there. Now try and stay with this connection and breathe in to your belly. So I could feel a little bit of a tilt of my pelvis the other way. Now, if you can keep that belly pulled in, see if you can breathe into this part, into the rib cage there. And you find that you can still keep that lower back down. And then release back to the start. Okay? Now what I want you to try is breathe in as you come into your pelvic tilt. So breathe out. Now breathe in. Just see how that feels. So for me, I find that there's too much popping around here. This is not trying to pull inwards, so I'm finding it very hard to get the abdominals to engage towards the floor. Good. So you might start to notice as we experiment with these exercises that some of the breath doesn't matter, whether you breathe in or whether you breathe out. And there's going to be somewhere, my body has to breathe out on that one and it has to breathe in on that one. So that is just a very quick, just get in the flow of that breath. Now let's take that up into a little bit of a higher move. So I'm just taking that out from underneath my head. You might need a soft cushion or no cushion. So my hands are on the floor, or you can have them on your hips. We're going to use the same exercise as we've just done. We're just going to take it up a little bit more. So breath in. As you breathe out, roll your lower back into the floor, hip bones towards rib cage. Now squeeze your bum and start to send your hips up towards the ceiling. Breathe in at the top. And now when you breathe out, send your rib cage, your belly button into your spine. The bum's lifting, the rib cage is trying to drop. So we're getting a stretch in the lower back, down the legs, breathing out. Come back to the center. Breathe in. Exhale. Squeeze your bum and lift. Inhale. And exhale down. Now let's breathe in on the way up. So get ready. Sometimes these things are really hard. Inhale. I just can't do it. And then inhale on the way down. Let's do it again. And then inhale on the way down. And how did that feel? So roll onto your side and bring yourself up. So maybe it made no difference to you. And obviously when you've been doing Pilates for a long time and you've been breathing a certain way, the body just naturally will follow that. And that is not always a good thing, because sometimes your brain has muscle memory, and sometimes that's not a good thing. Sometimes we have to challenge that. So the next exercise is one that we can use the breath to challenge the brain a little bit. So it's called the spine twist. And as I'm not really focusing on teaching the full, complete exercise, we're just going to make it a little bit more easier, but I want you to focus on how the breath facilitates this, or how it feels in your body. So pop yourself onto a block to start with. And the true spine twist is we'd have the legs out in front, but I'm not really worried about the legs today. So do what you want with the legs. You can cross them, you can have them arm straight or bent. Again, I'm not focusing on the arms, because all I want you to do is just be feeling how the body feels when we're turning and breathing. So let's have the hands across the chest. I'm just put them there because of the microphone. Right, so we're sitting nice and tall. And now take a breath in as you start to turn to the left. And I like to close my eyes and just feel, what does your spine feel like when it's turning? What does your body feel like when it's turning? So breathe out. And then inhale, turn to the left. Breathe out, stay there. Can you turn a little bit more? And then inhale, come back to front. Exhale. Inhale, turn to the right. Exhale. Can you turn a little more? Inhale, come back to front. And relax. Now we're going to exhale as we turn. So breathe out. So inhale. Exhale, turn. Inhale, hold. Exhale, come back to front. Inhale, hold. No, inhale, move. No, inhale, hold. Exhale, rotate. Inhale, hold. And exhale, come back to the front. And relax. So how did that one feel for you? So the reason I get a little bit muddled is I always do these on an inhale. Paul always does them on an exhale. So I'm going to explain why. For me personally, when I breathe in, what I feel is the rib cage wants to open up and lift. I feel like the spine wants to lengthen. So what I feel like is happening when I'm breathing in and turning is that all these vertebrae get to lift a little bit before they turn. So to me personally, it feels like there's a little bit of decompression in the spine, which is going to help the rotation. And then when I breathe out, I'm thinking of giving my spine a hug with all these muscles around the waist to emphasize that little last bit of the rotation. And then when I come back to front again and I'm breathing in, I get that lengthening and release and space sensation in the body. That is just how I personally feel with that. Paul sees it another way. So as Paul turns and he breathes out, what he's feeling is the rib cage is pulling down and all the muscles are escorting the spine around. And you know what? They are both right. They are not wrong, they are not right. And in fact, Joseph Pilates used to switch the breathing quite often. Sometimes he would do things on an inhale, sometimes he would do them on an exhale. They make the body work in a different way, and they facilitate moves in a different way. So again, try not to get fixated on the breathing, and that's why I'm spending a little bit of time so that you can experiment with these different exercises, and you're soon going to realize, do you know what? Your body is going to do what it's meant to do. And I'll say it again, the most important thing is that you just don't hold the breath. So let's have another one. So we're going to come into a seated position again. And this time what we're going to do is a half roll back. So again, I'm not too focused on the technique. You're not going to hurt yourself with this one if you lift your toes or you have your legs a little bit wider. But just come into a position that you can sit nice and tall and the legs are out in front. I'm going to hold behind the legs, but if you've done this before, or even if you haven't, you can have the hands out in front. Just makes it a little bit harder. But for what I'm focusing on today and just this experiment with the breathing, I'm going to keep the hands behind the legs. So shoulders are back and down, and I'm lifting up nice and tall through the crown of the head. So breathe in. Now, as you breathe out, remember that little pelvic tilt we did on our back? We're going to do that again. So as you exhale, you're going to roll your pubic bone towards your heart, and you're going to come off the sitting bone as you're breathing out. When you're in this position, you're trying to close this space. You're trying to bring your ribs and your hips closer together. Now, breathe into your back. So you're still pulling in that tummy. And now, as you exhale, stay rounded, and then lift. We'll do one more like that. Breath in, exhale. Stay there, inhale, exhale. Let's change it. Breath in, exhale. Pull in that tummy, pull it in, you should be breathless. Now, inhale to come up. Exhale to go back. Inhale to come up. How did that one feel? And now the last little one we'll play with is breathing in as you go back. So breathe out. Inhale. Exhale to come back. One more. Inhale to go back. Exhale to come up. How did that one feel? Again, it might be fine for you. Maybe just because my body's trained like it has trained, it's just used to. But I find that when we're trying to close off around this area, like, it's very hard to breathe in when we are doing that, unless you are doing your lateral thoracic, breathing into the ribs here and the back and stuff. So let's have another play. So we're going to come into standing, and this will be the last one. We're going to do a roll down. So come into standing, and we come up into that position. So your feet are hip width apart, and shoulders are back and down, and rib cage is pulled in, tailbones tucked under. I'm going to reverse the car into the garage. So As I reverse the car back, I'm trying to lengthen the neck. Breathe in. As I breathe out, I'm going to pull my tummy in, drop the chin down, and I'm going to start to roll down. But I want my head to stay as close to the body as I can. Now, if you are a yoga person and you've done yoga for many years, you'll want to come down with a straight back. We want to keep those hips where they are, bring the head down towards the body, and breathe out. Now, you might want to have soft knees, that's fine. Just go down as far as is comfortable. Breathe in at the bottom, and then exhale as you come up. So when you breathe out, the tummy is pulling in, we are supporting the spine, and we're using muscles to bring the body up. Once you come up, have a shoulder roll. We'll do a few more. Breath in, chin tuck, breathe out. Inhale, bottom. As you exhale, tummy goes in, belly button is pushing the spine up. Shoulder roll at the top. Now I want you to try and breathe in on the way down and breathe in on the way up, but keep that tummy pulled in. So, chin tuck. Inhale. If you need to keep breathing, stop, inhale, go. Breathe out at the bottom, and I inhale. And then bring yourself up. So for me personally, what I found is breathing in going down was too challenging. I couldn't keep those abdominals working. The coming up was easier to inhale coming up, but what I found was I was losing the connection with my abdominals. So as I was coming up, my tummy started pushing out. And what happens then is we'll release all the core muscles, and now what you're saying to your spine is, can you pull the body up? And that's not really what your spine is designed to do. Your spine is bones. Your muscles need to do with the work. So that's just what I felt coming up. I felt like everything was a little bit too relaxed around there rather than when I breathe out, and I feel it's nice and supported and strong around the waist. So hopefully you can see what happens with the breathing. And coming back to, let's have a little chat. Coming back to posture, all these things impact our alignment. So again, let's come to like emotions. You've never seen a depressed person walking around with their chest puffed out and lovely deep breaths. What happens when you're depressed? You round and you close up. Smokers, they round and they close up. Now, how that impacts the breathing is in between your rib cage and along here, all across here and around the back, we have muscles that are called intercostal muscles and a lot of other muscles around the chest. Now, when we close ourselves off into that position and we stay like that, through like mental health or sitting on computers, driving stuff, these muscles, and I'm going to use the term shrink, and that's not technically what happens, but it's a nice way for the brain to think. They become shorter. The muscle fibers become shorter. They become tighter because the body doesn't need them to be that long because it's not using the body in that way. So the brain's saying, let's save energy. Let's make those muscles shorter. Now, what that does is it restricts the breathing. It makes your breathing so much harder. And then what happens is you have these short, shallow breaths. You can see it's all up here. So your breathing can affect your mental health and your body. But your mindset, your mental health and your body can affect the breathing. So they work together. So to help overcome anxiety and depression and all of these things and just feeling sad, feeling unhappy, if we start to open the chest a little bit more and work on our breath, it will start to change the function of the brain. It will stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms the body, which slows the heart rate down. So breathing is so important. Of course, without the breath, you wouldn't be able to be alive. But just start taking notes of that. And one of the exercises, actually a yoga one, is the Ujjaya breathing. And it's not, it's quite a hard one to practice, but I'm going to cover this very quickly. And I'm not actually going to teach the Ujjaya breath. I'm just going to show you how to slow the breath down. So if you keep your mouth closed, and it's almost like you're going to snore. And if you do that for 4 counts, and you breathe in through the nose for 4 counts, and then exhale for 6 counts. And you just carry on with that. It will slow down. When you restrict that, and you do the little bit of the Ujjaya breath, when you restrict that, it's only so much air that you can take in at once, and it forces your body to slow down. It's a breath that took me a long time to actually get right and to learn. And then once I got it, I was like, oh my God. And when I started to do meditation with it, I could actually get the breath into breathing in for like, I think my record was like 16 counts and exhaling for 18 counts, just because I slowed the whole body down. But you can, if you've had an argument with someone, you can go to the toilet, just do that breath for 5 minutes, and you will feel so much calmer once you've done that. So I hope you've enjoyed that little experiment with breathing, core activation, how the breath facilitates some of the moves and how it doesn't facilitate some of the moves, and sometimes it just doesn't matter, providing you're breathing. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Join me for another one soon on our YouTube channel or Facebook. Take care and have a lovely day. Bye.